Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another interview-style video where we talk about things that happen to do with Final Fantasy XIV. This then is no different, with producer and director Naoki Yoshida sat down to talk about patch 7.2 and the future. This is actually something that we expected a couple of weeks ago, but Yoshi P is on his tour talking to various media outlets around the world, starting with Famitsu magazine back in Japan. We've used Google Translate, so this might be slightly off, but for the most part, it's on the money, talking about the various new features of patch 7.2 in the attempt to hype it up. So 7.2 is the latest major update for Final Fantasy XIV, known as Seekers of Eternity, scheduled to release in late March 2025. A lot of us are saying that it's going to be the 25th of March. We should hopefully get confirmation on that date tomorrow in the live letter. So fingers crossed for that. But yeah, the patch series starting with 7.2 will include a new main quest, the second raid in what they call Golden Legacy, which is Dawntrail, the Arcadion, the Cruiserweight class, the third field exploration content in the game, known as Crescent Isle Mirage Island, or obviously Shades Triangle for us, and the large-scale life-related content, Cosmic Exploration, as well as other new content. In that article, they say they bring you an interview with Yoshi P and talk about 7.2. So let's get straight to it. So this bit is a portrait of another faraway future has also been confirmed, whatever that means. It says, before we talk about 7.2, 7.1 added the new Alliance raid Echoes of Vana'diel and the new battle content Cloud of Sinners Fierce Battle. Oh, is that what they call it in Japanese? That's interesting. First, please give us a look back at patch 7.1. Yoshi P says, regarding Echoes of Vana'diel, I had a chance to talk to Yoji Fujito, producer and director of Final Fantasy XI, the other day, and he said that some of the Final Fantasy XI players had originally said they wanted to see Vana'diel expressed in the current graphics, and that he was really grateful that this was a response to that. After the implementation, attention was focused on Final Fantasy XI, and the impact in terms of numbers, such as the number of players, was clearly visible. And we on the Final Fantasy XIV team were also very relieved to receive a very positive response from the players. As I mentioned in a previous interview, Yoshi P says, some Final Fantasy XI players have various feelings about 14. Because of this, I was not able to take a step forward until now, but I feel glad that we created the content of Echoes of Vana'diel. The development team is already working hard to create the second and third installments, so I hope you will look forward to them. Very excited. I personally really enjoyed the first part with Juno, so hopefully they continue that train of thought. It's such a good idea for an Alliance raid, and there's a lot of Final Fantasy XI players that would, well, they would love to see all sorts of different parts of 11 in our game, so we'll see what we get. The interviewer says, as someone who also plays Final Fantasy XI, I was really impressed with the graphics, the battles, and the implementation of the lower levels of Juno. Yoshi P says, I'm happiest to hear you say that. In the second and third volumes, we'll be able to see more of the good parts of the character Preesh, and when the story is complete, I think more people will be thinking about trying out Final Fantasy XI. So I hope we can help boost both Final Fantasy XI and 14. Pretty cool. There is currently also a promotion to give you game time, essentially, for Final Fantasy XI and try it out, so don't miss out on that. How did you feel about the fierce battle against the Cloud of Darkness? Okay, this is talking about Chaotic now. In the 6.x series, Yoshi P says, we were able to firmly establish the aspect of it's an MMORPG, but you can enjoy it even by yourself, including the system development. On the other hand, the major policy for the 7.x series is play together and make it even more fun. The first part of this concept is the new battle content of Chaotic, as they call Destruction. In the major update of X.1, after the release of the expansion patch, the content volume tends to be small because everyone is shifted to the expansion work until the last minute. So this time, in order to cover that, we started making it quite a while ago, and Nakagawa, Mr. Masaki Nakagawa, lead battle content designer of Final Fantasy XIV, put it together well. He made a gimmick with a lot of attention, so many players played it than expected, and those who played it said it was fun to clear it. Yeah, I have to say Chaotic Alliance Raid was one of my favorite pieces of content in Dawntrail. It might not be everyone's, but I really enjoyed it. The interviewer continues, Mr. Sakaguchi, Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of the Final Fantasy series and known as a Final Fantasy XIV player, also posted pictures of him having fun on social media. Yoshi says, I'm glad you enjoyed it, he laughs. I intentionally included tradable items as rewards, so I think it worked well. I've heard a lot of players say, I don't want to do it every time, but I want you to implement more destruction content, more chaotic content. So I hope to be able to respond to that request someday. So it looks like not anytime soon. I would love to see a Chaotic Alliance raid maybe twice in an expansion, similar to how they do Ultimates. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how many resources go behind creating this, but it would be lovely to see more. Personally, I think more content is always better than less. The interviewer says 7.1 also saw the implementation of another feature, but are there plans to add portraits as rewards in 7.2? Okay, Yoshi says we are preparing it. The final design has been confirmed, and it is naturally a very flashy design since it's based on the image of those two. It is quite full of Chunibyu feeling, he laughs. So another future is obviously the ultimate, futures rewritten. So there's going to be portraits added for 7.2. So those of you who are excited for those, cool, awesome. We have yet to clear through in our group, and I don't think we will, but it looks like such good content. I enjoyed what little I progressed on it. The interviewer says, I'm looking forward to it. I will go into more detail later, but the next patch, 7.2, will also implement new content, such as Mirage Island, Crescent Isle, and Cosmic Exploration, and the 7.x series seems to have a lot of new challenges overall. Yoshi says, although it's different from the daily perspective of players, the development and operation of MMORPGs requires long-term expectations and planning. As I mentioned earlier in the 6.x series, we focused on the aspect of being able to play alone and set the goal of widening the scope, and achieve this by concentrating our costs to a certain extent. From here on, we'll focus on the original MMORPG of it's more fun to play with multiple people. The development team is also working very hard, and I think the content volume in the 7.2x series will be the largest ever. I hope you will enjoy the various elements. Yeah, it looks packed. Next, the Zelenia Destruction Battle. So this is talking about the new trial, right, in 7.2. Is a fair and honest head-on battle. The patch art for 7.2 Seekers of Eternity left a different impression from previous visuals. First of all, please tell us the patch title and the concept of the art. Yoshi says, in the previous stories of Hydaelyn and Zodiac and Golden Legacy, it was clearly presented that memories and souls are different things. However, if only memories are preserved and deployed in cyberspace, does that mean they will not die? In other words, are they permanent? Some people feel that mere unchanging memories and records without the presence of a soul are not permanent, while others believe that they are permanent and ideal. So what exactly is permanent? Exploring this is one of the themes of this and future issues. This is also the case with the keys that have appeared since 7.0, but such concepts will be important in depicting the story of Final Fantasy XIV from here on, and this is not the end, but will continue into the future. The existence and settings of the Ancients and Ascians that appeared in the story so far have not disappeared, but will lead to new themes and goals based on Hydaelyn and Zodiac. I think that 7.2 will give that impression that such development has just begun with new characters, end quote. So I think anybody who put their money on Ascians being involved, you win, basically. We were right. Probably exploring the memories of Ascians or something. This cyberspace thing. The implications are quite big, aren't they? The interviewer says, so new developments are definitely waiting for us in the future. Yoshi P says, of course, the whole story won't be depicted in one patch, but each character's purpose will gradually become clearer. This will not only be the case in 7.2, but will become clearer from the middle of the latter half of the 7.x series. For this reason, we decided to include new characters in the patch art. In addition, the patch art uses a large number of monitors to express a multifaceted way of thinking and multifaceted content. By the way, for this art, we asked the artist to create two versions, one that follows the atmosphere of the past and one with increased saturation. The version that was actually adopted is the version with increased saturation. There were some voices within the team saying it's so different from previous art that there is a possibility that people will reject it, but we thought that showing various expressions is also a part of Final Fantasy XIV's style, so we adopted this version. Of course, there are people who prefer the fantasy pictures with reduced saturation as in the past, but we think there will also be people who think this kind of worldview is also good. So we went all out this time. By the way, the final effect on the patch logo side has also been adjusted to match the picture. And as you can see, there's the patch artwork there, which is kind of incredible, isn't it? It's definitely a different way than many of us expected with these monitors. Looks quite interesting. I can't wait to see what the patch is like. The visuals for the raid series for the Arcadion Heavenly Seat, as it's called, which is the Cruiserweight Championship, also seemed completely different from previous Final Fantasy XIV games, but many more aspects will become apparent in the 7.x series. Yoshi says that's right. However, on the other hand, Crescent Isle and Mirage Island is a very straightforward fantasy story, so I would be happy if you could think of it as a very varied rather than just one direction. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think, says the interviewer, I can give away too much about the main story, but I'm still curious about the Zilenia extermination battle or the trial. Will this battle be related to the main quest? Well, yeah, obviously. Yoshi B says, yes, in the past we've received feedback saying, I want to play the new trial first, so I want it to be separated from the main quest. So we tried a pattern where it was separate from the main quest, but recently a lot of content has been implemented at once, and the number of patterns where the story and battle are linked has increased again. It's also true that it's easier to create excitement in a story if the cost of the trial is also used for the main quest. For that reason this time, both the new instance dungeon Royal Castle Ruins Underkeep and the Zilenia trial are linked to the main quest, which is, that's how it should be in my opinion. It's the best way to kind of tell a story and have an ultimate encounter, at least in my opinion. The interviewer says, looking at the screenshots that have been released, it is said that the motif for the Zilenia Annihilation battle may be Beatrix from Final Fantasy XI. 9. Is that true? Yoshi P says the design of the new instance dungeon Underkeep, the former castle ruins, and the Zilenia extermination battle in 7.2 certainly evokes Final Fantasy IX. However, my original request was to keep it away from Final Fantasy IX. 9 is a true masterpiece and many people have strong feelings for it. So if we followed 7.0 too closely, we would have pulled in that direction and the theme would have gotten blurred. However, when we were considering developments after patch 7.3, there was a suggestion at the plot stage that this kind of development would fit in. What do we think? And while the theme of the story itself hasn't changed, we changed how we conveyed that theme to the form we have now. The interviewer says, so that's how it happened? Yoshi P says, however, this time I don't want you to see it as this is different from Final Fantasy IX or this is the same, but rather I have tried to make it as close as possible so that you can feel the affinity and homage of the ideas and nuances that flowed behind it. Due to my own wishes, I have not revealed much about the background of the setting. As for Zilenia Extermination Battle, as you can see from the appearance, it is, to a certain extent, a fair and honest head-on battle, so I'd like you to actually fight and feel various things. I made it hoping that something would be conveyed from the lines and bits of the battle. So obviously they're not saying it's Beatrix, but it's kind of Beatrix, right? It's kind of Beatrix. But I guess we'll see what happens. The interviewer says, as expected, from the appearance, I somehow imagined a physical image of the battle. Yoshipi says, that's right, that's true, but normal fits into that category. But what about extreme? He laughs. There are many different types, even in fair play. So hopefully the extreme has an interesting phase 2 or something. So Type 0 will be released in 7.2, they say. Regarding Arcadia Cruiserweight class, the first light heavyweight was very impressive in that the bosses and gimmicks that appeared on each floor were very varied. Will each floor have completely different characteristics this time as well? Yoshipi says yes. This time the characteristics of each layer are even more clearly different. There are bosses whose main feature is a rapid succession of extremely fast gimmicks, content created with a dance theme, and the map itself is redrawn. Each battle has a different theme. The raid series Arcadia the Seat of Heaven in Golden Legacy originally started with the keyword Sky Arena from a certain popular manga. And the concept started with the image that if you want to break through this floor, you have to defeat the Floor Master. Since Golden Legacy expressed a world inspired by Latin America and North America, the essence of pro wrestling was added, and even live commentary was added, and that's how it became what it is today. Cool. The interviewer says, I see. It was because of the essence of pro wrestling that these unique bosses were born. Yoshipi says, in wrestling, I think character is important, whether it's the technique or the way it's defeated. Each wrestler is different. That's why you want to cheer them on. You can get excited. That's the theme of making this raid series. As for our recent battle content, there were many points where we put restrictions on ourselves and held back too much because we have made various contents. So this time, it was also a time to go back to the basics. Let's prioritize more fun and make it with free ideas. And if we make a mistake as a result, let's reflect on it, examine it, and use it on the next challenge. The concept of the Arcadion, the Seat of Heaven, fits in well with that, and I think the uniqueness of each layer is even stronger in this cruiserweight class. Cool. So they're basically ditching any sort of conceived notions of restriction and throwing stuff at a wall again to see what works. This is good. This is the Square Enix and Business Unit 3 that I know and love, so we'll see what the fights are like. The interviewer says, I'm curious about what kind of character the mysterious Lalafell revealed in the 85th PLL is. He laughs. Yoshipi says that mysterious Lalafell may divide players' opinions. Personally, I'm not a fan of his way of speaking. Is it he? Their way of speaking? Her way of speaking? But that's part of his character, they say. Some people might find that that's good. They laugh. We also put a lot of effort into adjusting the overall colors, and I think you'll understand why we created the atmosphere if you actually play the game. Okay, interesting. In previous raid tiers, there has been a tendency for the first installment to be less difficult and then the second installment to be more difficult. Will we see a similar trend this time? Yoshipi says that's right. However, we haven't consciously made the gimmicks themselves more difficult in the past, but have adjusted the difficulty by the minimum required firepower and the way the compound gimmicks are layered. And the first raid was made to intentionally suppress that. So this time we didn't suppress it, but rather tried to give it a numerical value that was firmly focused on the balance of Savage. Since the characters' personalities are strong, it's quite a challenging battle, so I hope you'll be a little more alert and take it on. In particular with the, in regard to light heavyweight implemented in 7.0, I think many people felt that it was easier than previous raids because of Pictomancer was too strong. But in a cruiserweight raid, will be a raid with overall job balance adjustments, including Pictomancer, so I think it will definitely be more challenging. So we'll have to see how challenging that is. We still don't know, obviously, what job changes they're making. So there will be fine job adjustments as well? Yes, of course, says Yoshipi. If that's the case, will Savage be implemented a little after implementation of 7.2, similar to the past? Yes, Yoshipi says. Immediately after the patch release, there have been many voices saying that players would like to complete the main quests and raids in normal and extreme difficulty before heading to Savage. So we will release the Savage after about a week rather than the same time as patch 7.2. Also, after analyzing your play data and market data so far, we have decided that it would be better to make the so-called new equipment available to craft a little before the Savage release, rather than at the same time, so that it would be a preparation period for Savage, so that the whole thing would run smoothly. In summary, new equipment will be available to craft at the same time as 7.2 is released, and Savage will open a week later. So there you go, there's your confirmation on your gear crafting. So if you're lining up your materials to craft stuff when the patch comes out, you can, and you totally should do, to make some gear, or to get some gear if you need it. So you're preparing new equipment and preparing for the upcoming Savage implementation while enjoying the main story and the extermination battles. Yes, that's the way it is. We plan to continue to follow this basic policy for 8-person raids that will have normal and Savage versions in the future. All right, cool. So now we're on to support job actions are quirky and fun, full of fun stuff. So they say Crescent Isle and Mirage Island will be set in a place called the Crescent Isle, Moon Island, but will the size of a field be about the same as Forbidden Land Eureka or Southern Bosnian Front? Yoshi B says yes. I don't think the size of the field content in 7.2 will be significantly different from any previous content. New fields have been added to Eureka and Bosnia with each patch, but will this be updated in the same way this time? Yoshi says I will briefly talk about the overall plan for Crescent Isle first in 7.2x, a dedicated exploration field, 12 support jobs, excluding makeup, numerous boss battle content, and high difficulty battle called Fork Tower that can be challenged by up to 48 players will be added at the same time. Then in patch 7.4x, support jobs will be added, and in 7.5x, we are currently planning an update aiming for a field of the same scale as this one. If we can run it according to the current plan, I think it will be the largest content ever. In addition, the area of the field is large this time, but the density of the content is also very dense. In addition to raising the unique level of knowledge, there is also a leveling up to master all the support jobs, weapon strengthening, and armor acquisition and strengthening elements. So there you go. So it's confirmed that we're essentially getting 2 major pieces of island of content for this. So in the past we've had like 3 or 4. It's 2 this time around. We get this one, Crescent Isle, Mirage Island, and then we get whatever the next one is in 7.5x. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? Let's see how big this content actually is. I'm excited for it, though. There is also an element of armor strengthening. By the way, is the armor you can acquire there given the image that it will be useful in Crescent Isle? Yoshi says yes, we've done thorough calculations of time, such as how many hours it takes to complete one part, so that players can get into the game. When you've maxed out your knowledge level and support job levels, and have upgraded your weapons and armor to the max, there will be a significant difference in firepower within Crescent Isle. I hope that those who want to reach the limit will get into the game. I think that even with just the current implementation, you'll be able to live and play in it. So it's going to be quite an investment then. And you'll be expanding it in future with patches. By the way, Yoshi P says, we're planning the latest deep dungeon in 7.3. There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. Fantastic. And we'll be focusing on other content. So the next update after the implementation is scheduled for 7.4x, as mentioned earlier. And with 7.5, we hope to deliver an update with the same volume as 7.2. We're still discussing whether we can increase the number of support jobs to the same extent this time. But we think that the range will be even wider in terms of strategy. That's a really, really cool notification. They've got a good layout of what the content's going to be over the expansion. You know, you take a bit of a break from Shades Triangle in 7.3 to explore a new deep dungeon and whatever other content there is. You come back for 7.4x series. Yeah, and then there's stuff for 7.5. I'm quite happy with that, especially the fact they've confirmed the deep dungeon now, so I'm happy. I love that content. Will support jobs be leveled up individually? Yoshi P says, yes, experience points are only earned for the support job you have set at that time. Are there specific support jobs that can be used for your main job, or can you freely change them? Yoshi P says, basically, you can attach any support job to any job. There are no restrictions, so you're free to do so. You can check what actions you can use with that support job even before you level up. So it's fine to think, I want to learn this action, so I'll start with this support job. For example, the support job Time Mage works well with Caster, i.e. your ranged magic DPS, and although it doesn't have any support for surrounding players or actions to protect yourself, it has attack-oriented performance. Oh, but Time Mage wasn't unlocked at the beginning, so I couldn't choose it at the beginning. Maybe it was a bad example. He has a bitter laugh. So if you're unfamiliar with this, these are called phantom jobs. There's the phantom weapons, which is your relic weapons. Phantom jobs are similar to the Logos action system, but you literally have a second job that you mash together with your current job to give you benefits. So presumably you could turn like a black mage into a tank again, things like that, right? But they've got specific names and they have independent leveling of each support job. So just if people were confused about that. But we have yet to see the full details. It's going to be very, very expensive. We're going to probably have to make a few guides on this content as we learn it. So support jobs are unlocked as you go. Yoshi P says at first, you can only choose 3 support jobs, excluding no makeup from there. I don't know what this no makeup is. You explore the island and unlock new support jobs by obtaining crystals under various conditions. Interesting. It's like obtaining jobs from crystals in Final Fantasy 3 and 5. Yoshi P says, I hope you'll all exchange information and explore together. By the way, there is a samurai among the support jobs, but unlike the samurai of modern Eorzea, they are set to be able to use ancient secret techniques and can use Shirabadatori. Okay, cool. And they say, I'm looking forward to that. Yoshi P says, if you aim to conquer Fork Tower, which presumably has a better translated name, but Fork Tower, which is the Baldessian arsenal, essentially, you will need to try and error who will set which support job. So if you're going to proceed with the strategy rigorously, you may end up leveling all the support jobs. For that reason, party monster hunting is very effective as a leveling method. Naturally, it may be difficult to make plans at first because the information is not open, but as you play, you will gradually see that this support job seems to be good for this main job. Because support jobs can be only used in the Crescent Isle, they have quite peaky and interesting actions. As a special example, a certain support job requires a large amount of gil. Interesting. So can we literally do like Zanmato? That's interesting. Is it like money toss, gil toss? Yoshi says, there are support jobs that use potions and other medicines to fight, but where do they get the highly effective medicines to use in those cases? They are sold at shops on the island. So if you want to be the savior who saves the party, you should buy them with your own money in advance, and each time you throw it, it will cost you 300,000 gil. That might be a bit of a money toss, he laughs. There are also actions that have the effect of removing one buff from the opponent, and while these effects tend to be nullified in normal content, they are effective on the island. There are many actions that are useful in such specific situations, so I hope you will try them out and use them as hints for your strategy. Holy moly. So you're going to have like guild toss, you'll have to purchase these potions to save your party. It's going to be a gill sink. Interesting. They continue. Previous raids in field exploration content such as Baldessian Arsenal and Gunhilda's Delbrum Savage have their own rules, such as limiting resurrection. Will this time's Fork Tower also have its own unique rules? Yoshi P says yes, Fork Tower has its own rules. As for the challenge of the content, since there are support jobs, it is assumed that you will master the support jobs while conquering them. Therefore, there will be situations where you think, I've conquered this far, but I don't think I can break through with this support job. And since it's a high difficulty battle content, unique to exploration content, I would be happy if you can aim to conquer it by making full use of the entire island. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? If it seems difficult to conquer with that support job, then next with this support job, so trial and error is required. Yoshibi says, in Forbidden Land Eureka, we aim to create an experience similar to that of old MMORPGs. So we added death penalties, concealed as much information as possible, and had monsters chase you endlessly, making a very peaky design. As a result, it didn't get very good reviews soon after it was implemented. We received a lot of feedback, but the finished version of Baldessian Arsenal has been praised around the world, and even now regular strategy activities are being carried out. On the other hand, the Southern Bosnian front was made to be a little closer to 14 based on the experience of Eureka. For example, critical engagement is a boss battle that you can enjoy on the field, and I think it was very well done. However, because the system allows you to gather automatically if you apply, the sense of exploration was weakened. Interesting. So the interviewer says, which side will the new implemented Crescent Isle be? Yoshibi says Crescent Isle aims to be somewhere in between. In addition to Eureka's lively feeling of playing together, there are a considerable number of boss battles similar to Bozja's critical engagements. In addition, as a result of adjusting the points that needed improvement based on past experience, I think it's become content that you can run around and play for various purposes, such as your own individual activities and mob hunting by linking chains with a party. In terms of exploration, in Eureka, it was difficult to go to the depths of the field, but this time, as long as the player's sneak skill is high, it is possible to reach all of the transfer points even at level 1. Although the flow of action is based on a scenario in the beginning, the location of all the transfer points or teleporters are visible on the map, so you can ignore the scenario and head there. Such freedom is quite secured. So they've gone back a little bit on the idea of you needing a level requirement to go and unlock a teleporter. If you're familiar with Eureka, you would have to get set levels. They lowered those levels as patches came out because of people's complaints, and now you can get them all at level 1. So your first thing that you want to do in Shades Triangle then, without a shadow of a doubt, because you'll be doing lots of fates and engagements and things, will be to ignore all of that and go and sneak, quotation marks, if that's a skill or something, find your way to all of the teleporters, unlock them, and then you'll be able to have all that freedom. There's no confirmation on mounting here, if that's something that you have to be max level for or something, but I guess maybe there'll be a quest for that. So, it seems like we'll be able to enjoy some different gameplay than previous field exploration content. Yoshibi says it's an image of taking the best parts of previous content, such as the parts that are more comfortable than Eureka and the parts that are more inconvenient than Bozja. Since we want you to feel a strong sense of exploration, there are a considerable number of unlockable elements in the lore book, such as the Bozja battle record. You can't conquer Fork Tower even if you go out alone, so I hope you don't rush and enjoy it as if you were playing a different game. I'm looking forward to seeing which world you will conquer first. Interesting. Which world you will conquer first. Maybe which world will actually conquer it first, as in what server. Maybe that's what they're talking about there. The interviewer says, I heard that Crescent Isle will also have weapon strengthening content, but in the 85th letter from a producer live, it was said that it is possible to strengthen weapons not only by playing the Crescent Isle, but also playing conventional content. In this regard, will you choose which method to do at the beginning, or will it be possible to continue strengthening weapons strengthened in Crescent Isle in other content? That's a good question. Yoshipi says, as for the type, it is the latter and can be strengthened both inside and outside of Crescent Isle. I won't go into details, but I'll just say that you should try it and see if you can hear the crunch sound for the first time in a while. Oh, we're talking about grinding here. They say, it brings back fond memories of the Zodiac weapon. They laugh. Yoshipi says, however, rather than recreating it exactly as it was back then, we have tried to incorporate a certain amount of gentleness to it. So please don't worry about that. Okay, so we're talking different stages, different ideas for each of the stages. Obviously, it's going to be maybe easier inside the Crescent Isle, but if you want to, you don't have to go there. But it's going to be a bit of a grind. I'm personally happy with that, because if I have to stare at another tombstone for every single stage again, I think I'll go crazy. So this is good news for me. Probably not for everybody, but yeah, it needs a bit of variety, I think, with relic weapons. So they move on. Cosmic exploration also offers a variety of activities. Is content aimed at crafters and gatherers, but will the main activities be crafting and gathering? Yoshi P says, yes, that's right. Cosmic exploration is also a combination of the feedback we received from the Ishgard restoration and deserted island development that we have implemented so far. And we are creating it as content that everyone can play while inheriting the good parts. So they say, just like Crescent Isle, it was created by taking the best parts of past content. Yoshi P says, yes, the Ishgard restoration was focused on creating an MMORPG-like experience that you can't go back to once you've experienced it. And with that in mind, we implemented a world restoration, completion, and ranking function. So I think that it was quite cutting-edge content. Ultimately, it was created with a concept of opening up Ishgard's housing areas with our own hands. However, to tell the truth, the Ishgard restoration map was released after first creating the housing zone and then destroying it. That's why the BG team worked as hard as they could, but they couldn't be reckless. And I think the joy of seeing the dynamic graphics change was somewhat weak. Oh, that's interesting. I thought the opposite. I thought it looked really cool, but so that's the story behind it. Yoshi B says, with that in mind, this time I wanted players to enjoy how the planets were explored and what kind of environment was created there. Also, if there was only one planet, the environment would be fixed, so it wouldn't look interesting. So the plan started from the idea of exploring a different planet for each patch. The interviewer says, so it was made with changes in visuals in mind. Yoshi P says, on top of that, the story will be implemented in 7.2x. Starts with building a base for star exploration on the moon. To explore the stars, you need a spaceship, and you also need a launch pad to launch the spaceship. Furthermore, you need to bring plants that can grow in any environment, test a machine that produces water, and so on. And you will be creating even the smallest details. The interviewer says that sounds like a lot of fun, and Yoshi P says there are many stages of exploration, so I hope that you will do your best. At the beginning, there are only a few containers and something like a crystal in the center, and there is really nothing there. From there, you will build various things and expand the exploration area. Are there any parts that you carried over from the uninhabited island development? Yoshi P says, what was good about the deserted island development was that everything was consolidated into one UI. This time we followed that same approach, and everyone was given a new tablet from the Laporit. Basically, everything was done with that UI. You receive missions from a tablet, and everyone does them together. Of course, there are unexpected events other than individual missions, and some of them are large-scale events, such as the robot power loader in this regard. It's a system similar to the Bosnian one-on-one battle, where you exchange tickets for tokens in advance, and when it occurs, you can use the ticket to apply to be the pilot. If you win the lottery, you can use the ticket to become that pilot. Also, even if you don't win, your application is counted, and we have prepared elements that make it easier to win in the future. This is not only based on the life-related content we've created so far, but also the system parts from other things. So there's going to be something similar to when you sign up for a duel, and you get into a duel, but for the crafter and gatherer stuff, that's really crazy, isn't it? Exciting. Although the base is crafting and gathering, there are also events like that prepared. Is there something like a joint reconstruction work for Ishgard reconstruction? Yoshi P says, yes, there are things like that. It's not just about crafting and collecting and delivering, but we have prepared various ways to play. The map size is about the same as the Crescent Isle, and when the zipline is completed, you can go further, and there are items that can only be found there, so please enjoy every corner. There's also that lottery element like Kupo Fortune, which was well received in the Ishgard restoration. This time, in the form of a roulette like Kupo Fortune, there are things that are not that are easy to win, things that are hard to win, but have rare rewards, and you can also complete specific missions to obtain tickets and use them to make rare rewards. Ooh, I wonder if one of them is going to be the mech suit. Exciting. As with Crescent Isle, there are many elements that I'm a little worried about whether I can tell you everything in the next letter from a producer live. We'll see tomorrow. As a player, my expectations are rising, the interviewer laughs. Yoshi says currently the checks are in a complete hellish scene. Just when I thought I had checked the Crescent Isle, I had to check Cosmic Exploration next, and both of them are so large that I can't see them all in one go. Since it's new content, it's very important that the explanations are easy to understand, so I'm checking the text for that purpose, and I'm in the middle of the peak period. So I'm sorry, I'm exhausted, he says. Yeah, it does seem like a rather large undertaking for one man, doesn't it, really? By the way, with this much volume, I don't expect it to be implemented all at once in patch 7.2, but in what order will it be implemented? Here we go. Yoshi says you can expect large content to be implemented about a month after 7.2 is released. 7.2 will be released and you can enjoy the main story and trial battles while preparing for new equipment, and then a week later Savage will be released. New Allegan Tomestones of Mathematics will also be added in 7.2, so token equipment updates will also begin at the same time. First, you will enjoy the regular content that comes with the major even-numbered patch, and then the next content will be implemented about a month later, and the next content will be implemented about a month after that. Okay, so we're looking at 7.2 series being like a couple of months then. Interesting. So we're not going to get Cosmic, obviously, or Shades at the same time. Interesting how that's going to pan out. Hopefully there's enough other content in 7.2 then. 7.2 itself is in late March, but it seems like there will be a lot of content to play around Golden Week, says the interviewer. Yoshi says, although the release dates for Crescent Isle and Cosmic Exploration have been staggered, they will continue to exist side by side, so please update your battle equipment to the latest version and progress through both. I think it will be something you can enjoy for quite a long time. By the way, are there any special rewards for Cosmic Exploration, says the interviewer? Yoshi says, of course, there are many rewards that can only be obtained in the exploration content. However, you should not rush to get them, so I hope you'll take your time and enjoy the game while nibbling at what you want to do. In addition, the large-scale PvP content Domination Battle will be revived, and role actions exclusive to large-scale PvP will be added, so I think the volume of this patch is really huge. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's the new series in there as well as rankings, so it's pretty exciting. Lots of stuff to look at. The usability of basic systems such as sprinting has also been improved. So this is like a really huge topic and probably the main thing that attracts people to this interview. So let's look at it. What is the progress on previously announced features such as the whiteboard and chat bubbles? There we go. So that's the first major thing. Yoshi says we were originally planning to release a basic version of a whiteboard function in 7.2, but we decided that the function was half-baked, so we're targeting 7.3 for release. Okay, a bit later than most of us wanted. I think the basic version has enough functionality to be implemented in the game, but if you're playing on PC and are using Discord, it is still half-baked in comparison. Of course, there is a demand for such functions, as they are not necessarily available on home console versions, but we would like to strengthen and deliver them to you as something unique to 14. General whiteboard apps are made to be used for various purposes, but we would like to implement them in 14 in a way that is clearly useful for discussions in 14. What are some specific details? Yoshi says, I think it would be easier to use a system to implement in the game if it had features that are unique to 14, such as being able to quickly bring up saved scatter diagrams for the whiteboard, being able to use each job icon and job dot, and even having icons automatically switch according to the jobs of party members, and being able to distribute carefully created designs for each phase to other players. A prototype has already been made, and the final compromise is currently being decided through feedback from the battle content team, the UI team, and myself. So I would appreciate if you could wait a little longer. If we release it in an incomplete function, it may continue to be unused, and the number of users may not increase even if we update it. Currently, many people are using the field marker save function for raids, and I would like to make it a function that players will find useful in the same way. Okay. The interviewer says, I'm looking forward to that. Yoshi says, as I mentioned earlier, if there was a function to exchange data on the whiteboard, communication would definitely be facilitated and it would be easier to use. Now that the basic implementation is complete, I'm asking the UI team to put together what features to include. So once that's confirmed, I think we'll be able to finalize the landing point. Okay, cool. So the whiteboard's coming, but we're waiting until 7.3. All right, okay. A little bit later than I was hoping, but hopefully in 7.3 we'll make use of that, right? Finally, please tell us what are the highlights of 7.2 are and your outlook for Final Fantasy XIV in 2025. Okay. 7.2 is definitely the biggest volume ever, says Yoshi P. As I've said before, there will be a lot of new challenges, new ways to play, and things that make use of past experiences. I think you'll feel that it's amazing when you actually play, so I hope you'll take your time to play. Of course, plans for future patches have already been made, and if they can be implemented properly, I think it will be the biggest volume ever, even with the period between expansions. Of course, we haven't forgotten about the limited job, Beastmaster, and it's progressing properly, so don't you worry, he laughs. The interviewer says, it seems like we have to keep an eye on 14 for a while. Yoshipi says, every time a new major update is released, the amount of content available to play until the next expansion pack will be enormous. So I think 2025 will be the year in which we present it in concrete terms. If we can get past that, we'll be able to see what's next. There's still a lot we can't say about 7.3, but it's packed with so many surprises. So first of all, I hope you enjoy the two super large pieces of content that will be implemented in 7.2 series. The content that will be implemented this time is even more fun when you play with everyone, so there are many elements that consume a lot of time. Please be sure to pay attention to your sleep and health. Very important there. I'm looking forward to it because it seems like we can expect lots of volume. Yoshipi says the game doesn't run away, so I hope you'll take your time to enjoy its charm. Although it's a really small detail, patch 7.2 includes some changes to the sprinting system, such as the ability to ride mounts while running, and several other updates that will greatly change the convenience of the basic system. Hold on a minute. This is something this might be the biggest piece of news for convenience. This is something that everybody does every day when they log into the game. You'll be able to move around and press a mount button and mount up. That is great. That is something that we have criticized here on this channel, and many other people have, that other MMOs do it better, where you can just press the thing as you're moving. It's so much smoother to do that. No more cast bars? Oh boy, I'm excited. That is super exciting. What's this about the sprint system? Finally, some unexpected information. Will there be adjustments to sprinting affect duration and recast time? Yoshipi says, due to the need to balance it with other content, it's difficult to make it possible to sprint permanently, but when you use sprint in a safe area, a new status called jog will be granted when the effect of sprinting wears off. The speed is a little slower than sprinting, but you can move at a fairly high speed. When the recast time comes back during that time, you can sprint again and dash, and when the effect wears off, you can jog. And that's how it goes. Also, it will be possible to ride a mount whilst running, which has been a long-held dream. I think everyone will stop at first because they won't get used to it, he laughs. I hope to be able to introduce this on the actual machine on the 86th letter from a producer live, so please look forward to the broadcast. So tomorrow we're going to see Yoshi P mount up whilst running around, as well as sprint stuff. This here is the biggest thing to everybody's life who plays Final Fantasy XIV that we've had, like quality of life wise. Super excited for this. The rest of the interview was fantastic, by the way. I'm really happy to have read through this. There's some really interesting bits, especially on Shades Triangle, but this is probably the coolest thing ever. Notice how they didn't talk about chat bubbles at all, even though it was asked about. Chat bubbles got completely dodged there by Yoshi P. But they did talk about, obviously, the whiteboard system. So 7.3 for whiteboard system. We're getting sprinting, the ability to run around and jog, when sprint runs out in city, so it'll be a little bit quicker. And also mounting whilst running. Super excited. But yeah, honestly, really good interview. Glad we read through this. It was a bit of a slog. I know that some people don't like the large format videos, And yeah, that's just the case of it, really. But I thought we would read through this. And I think Google Translate did a pretty good job, honestly. It's interesting to hear what they're talking about with the Alliance raid and the reception to everything and how they're planning the content. Yeah, this was a really, really useful interview. So much thanks to Famitsu. This will be linked in its Japanese, obviously, version in the description if you want to go read through this yourself. But I'm super excited for 7.2 and beyond. And yeah, can't wait to get creating content. But I'll see you all tomorrow for Letter from a Producer Live 86. And we'll see some of this in action, probably. Much love. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.